Hello and welcome to the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. I'm your host for the first segment, Tom Nappy, and we are awaiting our guest. He should be logging in soon. We're going to have head coach of Ashland Legion Baseball, Jake Obid, on the show today. And we're going to talk about a number of different sports. We're going to talk, of course, about the status of Legion Baseball, what's going on with that. We'll talk some high school sports. And last night, the NFL draft took place as well. So we'll touch on that also. And he should be here momentarily. He's trying to log in right now as we speak and perhaps having some difficulties, but we'll get him there. In any case, it was a pretty good NFL draft last night. It was the first remote draft of all time, and it was quite a production. They did a good job, relatively no technical difficulties, and I thought it went pretty well. Bob, did you watch the draft at all?
No, I didn't have a chance to watch it, Tom. I was monitoring the planning board meeting, but I did see that it was on. But when I turned it on, it reminded me of the Zoom meetings we're having. I didn't have time to watch all of it or even much of it. So, what were some of the interesting parts to you?
Well, certainly some of the picks were interesting. Uh, the Patriots, probably unsurprisingly, ended up trading down from the 23rd pick, but I thought they got some great value in return. They ended up getting a second and third round pick after trading away that 23rd pick. So that was good. But I thought it was pretty cool. They had cameras pretty much in all the potential draft picks' houses, or some type of camera. It was a webcam, I believe. It was probably they probably had instructions to how to set up the camera. Who knows? Maybe ESPN sent them the cameras over. I don't know how that all worked, but it was pretty impressive the amount of people that they had on the broadcast, the amount of cameras that they had all around. And it was certainly different, but it didn't, it felt like a draft. I mean, it was obviously not everybody in the same place as usual, but it was a very good production. I was pleasantly surprised.
I'm
So,
sorry, I missed it.
yeah.
So, where did Burrows go? Cleveland?
So the Burrow went to Cincinnati with the first
Uh,
pick. So Joe Burrow at a LSU. And then you had Chase Young go second. He went to Washington. And then Jeff Okuda went to Detroit for the third pick, a defensive back. Then you had Andrew Thomas out of Georgia, an offensive tackle, going fourth to the Giants. And then Tua, a player that a lot of people thought the Patriots might get. Miami ended up picking him up with the fifth pick in the first round of the draft. And Miami needs a quarterback. So I think that could really pay off. Of course, Tua, for those that don't know, was injured last year. And before his injuries, he was having all kinds of success and then fell to the knee injury bug last year with a knee injury, was out for most of the season. And a lot of the experts thought that was going to scare the teams off from taking him high in the draft. But it didn't scare Miami. They ended up taking him. And I think probably and one thing we'll dig into later is Jake's still trying to join us. He's having a little technical difficulty. Uh, but one thing we'll dig into later is the Green Bay pick. They traded up to the 26th pick with Miami, and they took a quarterback. They took Jordan Love out of Utah State. And I can't imagine the Packers taking a first round pick sits very well with Aaron Rodgers.
no, I think you're right. I don't think that would have happened.
So it looks like I'm going to have to try to give Jake a call to try to walk him through how to get in here. He's having a little technical difficulty. So, Matt, if you have a moment to just update us on what's coming up the rest of the week, that would be great. Well, Matt's not near his computer, so we'll keep the show going. So how the
No, I'm
planning?
here. Sorry.
Oh, there he is. All right,
Hi.
Matt. So if you could just give us a quick update on what's coming up this week, I'm going to try to give our guest a call and try to get him into our show here.
Yeah, no problem. I'll burn a few minutes. Well, today, coming up right after this on HCAM Ed, we're going to be showing one of our HCAM binge blocks. We're going to have a few games from the 2018 girls lacrosse season. You know, lacrosse is actually quite a big game in my family. Except for me, everyone in my family played. All three of my brothers played varsity lacrosse in high school, and also a lot of my cousins did as well. Though a bit ironically for what I'm saying, none of my female cousins. Though I do have two younger cousins still in school, so maybe someday. And then tonight at 7, we have Cheryl Peralt coming back, and she has a Friday night wake-up call, and she'll have a few guests. That's at 7 p.m. And then coming up next week, we have a few guests already lined up. On Monday, we're gonna have Margie Wiggins and Matt Romling coming on to talk. Margie will be talking about her job as a reading specialist and a tutor, and Matt will be talking about the NFL draft, Tom, as you were just saying. And obviously, right after this show, we have at 2:30, we have Carol Cavanaugh coming in, and Jim Cousins will be back to talk with her, just keeping up with her, seeing how the schools are doing.
And I know you know this, Matt, but just a reminder that last night we had the first full-fledged planning board meeting. It went from 7 o'clock till 10:42, and it was well attended by over 40 individuals on the Zoom meeting. So John Gelschitz had his hands full trying to keep control of everybody that wanted to speak and make comments. And then next week on Monday, we have another planning board meeting to follow up on the one that came on last night. And then on Sunday, we have at 10 o'clock Sunday services.
Yes.
So what were some of the topics at the planning board meeting last night, Bob?
Well, they followed their agenda pretty well, but they had legacy farms. There still were a few concerns about the overhead stoplight that hasn't gotten finished yet. There were requests from some condominium owners to be included in the town pickup of services of trash and snow plowing. So there's still a lot to come next week.
Should be interesting. How'd they make out with the technology? Did they do well?
Yes, they did. There may be some government Zoom service that they subscribe to, because it's a little bit different than the standard Zoom that you and I and Matt and Jim are using on a daily basis, but we get there the same way.
Excellent. Well, we do have our guest here now. We have head coach of Ashland Legion Baseball, Post 77, Jake Obid. Jake, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Tom?
Good. Doing well. Obviously, it's a crazy time right now, but
yeah,
we're still on the air, so that's always a good thing.
Good.
So, first off, can you talk a bit, for those that don't know, about your athletic career? You're a great athlete, and now, of course, you're the head coach of Ashland Legion Baseball. So tell the people a bit about your athletic experiences.
So I went to Holliston High School, and I played soccer and baseball. I played basketball up until my sophomore year, and then decided to take winter off to focus more so on baseball in the spring. But I played baseball for 4 years, and I played soccer for 3. And I mean, I had a really good time doing it. That's why I feel so bad for the kids, especially this spring, that just because the other day was like the final decision where their seasons got canceled.
Right.
Obviously, having experienced that just a couple of years ago, like how fun it was being able to play for your hometown, and play with like kids who you grew up with. It's like a once in a lifetime experience. So, and you even think about like the common athlete probably has 2 varsity seasons. And so for the seniors, obviously it's horrible, but even the underclassmen, especially juniors, like kids who this was probably their like first season playing varsity baseball, and now going into senior year, having just one chance to do that. I mean, it's tough, and it's something that makes me appreciate my experience more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for all the athletes that were planning to play this spring for their respected high schools, but especially the seniors. It is your last hurrah, your last time to get on the baseball diamond, your last time to play softball, lacrosse, and you don't get to do it. And I just feel awful for them. It's a terrible thing. But hopefully, I mean, a lot of them, I'm sure, are going to play in college, which is a good thing. And you just wonder that if things clear up by the summer, well, maybe people take advantage of if they didn't get to play high school baseball, will they play Legion baseball?
Yeah.
You think you guys might see an increase in numbers?
That's sort of what we're thinking now, especially because we don't really know the status. There's not much we know. We don't know the status of like AAU baseball. Because if you look with AAU, it's a lot of big tournaments where there's like if you look in Northborough, those complexes, they're always packed. And there's probably 15 teams there at a time, whether you're waiting to play or whether you're playing on one of the 4 fields. And then there's like parents, fans, like college coaches coming. So it's like a big event there. And then just with travel alone involved in AAU, that might be more difficult to make happen.
Right.
Just because of those things alone. So if AAU is canceled, I think that will definitely bring in more kids wanting to play Legion if Legion happens. But I mean, definitely too, I think kids will just be a little hungrier come the summer. There's been kids who aren't returners who are reaching out, like hoping to get a season, wanting to try and play Legion. And you look like in our area alone, we have a ton of talented baseball players. And then you have both our program and Milford, who in the past, Milford's always been a great program, but in the past few years, both of us have made runs deep into the state tournament. So, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of interest, which is great. It's great for Legion, but I just hope that we're able to put on a season so that that's actually able to happen.
And we'll send it to Bobby as a question for you.
Yeah, I had a question, Jake, about I understand Legion baseball, but you draw from a lot of athletes of various different schools around the area. Can you talk to me about what it's like to have these talented athletes, each one in their own right from their own high school, try and put them together to make a team where they can support each other, who they've been fighting all year?
Yeah. I think that for me, like when I was playing, I played 3 years for Post 77. And I was a coach. That was the coolest part about it, was that, Ashland and Hopkinton are rivals. And those are 2 of the towns. And then Holliston, we're in the same league. We play each other twice a year. And it's like, there were kids who became my teammates and my good friends still, who I did not like. I didn't like playing them, and I think they felt the same way about me. But having just experienced that for 3 years, I think it made it a little bit easier for me. Because all the kids really, all they want to do, there's not a single kid on the team that is a bad kid that really doesn't like other people. They're just competitive. So in the spring, yeah, they're going to compete against each other. And there's going to be beef between them and stuff like that. But when they get to the summer, they really all have common goals. And that was a thing our whole staff did well, was establishing goals with the players. And the players set their goals high. We did that at the start of the season, a couple weeks before we kicked off with games. And I think that was the biggest thing, was all having not only personal goals, but we had 3 team goals that we built around. And that really eliminated any sort of feuds between any of the kids that developed in their years playing high school. But we had 5 different high schools. We have a kid from Zavarian Brothers. We have that's Nick Calabrese. We have Lawrence Tang, who goes to Belmont Hill. And then we obviously have Ashland, Hopkinton, Holliston. So it is a wide range of kids. And it definitely, it can be a challenge, but I lucked out with one, having a really good staff around me, whereas like we all had played post 77 together, so we meshed really well, and we were younger, so it sort of helped us relate to the kids more, and we all had goals. Kids came up short on their goals in high school, so that fueled them even more. So it really wasn't much of a challenge. But I mean, that's the really cool part about Legion Ball is you don't get that. Like AU's great. You sort of need it to get college exposure, but the experience playing Legion, like I did both, and Legion was just unbelievable, and that's why I got really involved back with it, just because of how awesome it is to build those relationships and things that you wouldn't have the opportunity to do otherwise.
Yeah, I think one of the best things about Legion is when you watch these kids from rival schools like Hopkinton and Ashland and Holliston come together, and they're very competitive against each other during the season, but then they come together, they play on the team, and it's like they're schoolmates. It's like they're playing for their high school team. They really, especially in post 77's case, they really unite and enjoy playing with each other.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, what was really cool was, I mean, during the season, we were all like, everyone was going out to dinner together, everyone was hanging out after games and stuff like that, and that's things that like they don't have. They're doing it because they want to. They're doing it because they like each other and they're friends, and that was really cool. But what struck me the most was like this fall, for example, Dom had an awesome football season. Ashland, the whole team, but like especially Dom. Dom was unbelievable. And kids from college were coming home on the weekends to like go support Dom. I know like 4 or 5 of the kids like went to their state semifinal game when they were home, and 3 of them had just been in college. Like they were all in they're not even Ashland kids, like Hopkinton, Holliston kids going to go see Dom play and Grover play, which I thought was really cool. And that spoke volumes about like the bonds they created. And that's just Legion Ball in a nutshell. You talk to anyone who's involved in Legion and they'll say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean the season's only about a month and a half, 2 months, but you're out there practicing every day. There's 3-4 games a week, and in a lot of cases, the games are very crammed together. So you spend a lot of time with the guys that you're out on the field with.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of what we talked about too. It's like it is a quick season, but I mean, you could even tell. I mean, you were just as involved as anybody in our season this past summer, and it was right out of the gate. You could sort of tell. We all talked about it after our first game. We played Newton. All the coaches, we were talking like right after the game. We were like, I think like this group's already clicking, and that was sort of the start of what ended up just being an awesome summer. And yeah, like we accomplished a lot, and that was good. That was good for like the reputation of the program. But the coolest thing for me was just like seeing all them come together and just like work really, really hard to it. Like they wanted to accomplish their goals. Like with Gandhi, like everybody wanted to win Gandhi, but when someone won Gandhi, everyone was pumped for that kid. So that was, I don't know, it was a lot of fun.
For those that don't know, why you tell the people what Gandhi's all about?
So we were thinking at the start of the season, we wanted to get like, I don't know how to like a rally symbol somewhat. So basically we wanted to get something to give to the player of the game after each game, and then just like take a picture of the whole team with the trophy. So we ended up, one of the kids had this bust of Gandhi. They were like, I think this would be good. So we sort of, every game we brought Gandhi to the game, and like Gandhi would wear my hat, and the coaches and I would decide on who the player of the game was, and we'd give Gandhi to that player. He would take it home, and then the next game he'd bring it, and we'd just do it. And it was just fun. It added a little more incentive, a little recognition. It was like a good way to build on social media and stuff like that. We just had a lot of fun with it. We ended up after the season, after our banquet, we went down to the field and we buried Gandhi. We had a funeral. It was a blast. That definitely added a little bit of fun to the season.
You'll have to get something else for the next season.
Oh yeah. We're working on whose bust we're gonna get for this summer.
Yeah, it's a great tradition. I think traditions like that are important. It's just another thing that brings together the team. It adds a little humor.
Yeah.
I think it motivated some of the guys who really wanted to bring
Oh,
home
yeah.
the statue for the night. I think it's important to have traditions like that. And the Gandhi statue was certainly a lot of fun last year.
Yeah, it was fun. We definitely enjoyed it.
So switching gears a little bit, a number of professional sports leagues have talked about style of season that would feature no fans, quarantine players, some remote locations. What are your thoughts on this? And if it's even possible, would you want to see a style of season or a playoffs in the case of basketball and NHL with no fans? Or do you think they should just hang it up until all this is over with?
I mean, I don't know how that's possible, but if you asked me at like the start of this, I probably would have a different opinion. But now being like 6-7 weeks without sports and having a virtual NFL draft being like the best thing on TV, like give me whatever you can at this point. Obviously, like I love going to Red Sox games, so no fans and stuff, like, yeah, that takes away a little bit of the experience, but I would definitely, I mean, I would still watch. I think they could make it entertaining, but like fans are a huge part of the game. I remember a few years ago, there was protests in Baltimore or something, and they did a game with no fans, and it was just weird to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
Some teams are used to no fans.
Yeah. Yeah. You look at Baltimore. You look at Baltimore and like even like Tampa Bay or the Marlins, like their seats are empty every game. So
There's a great meme going around that said the NFL wanted advice on playing with no fans, so they asked the Bengals.
yeah, no, I can't. I mean, even NFL games, like I don't know. It would be surreal for sure. I just don't know how they can even make that happen. Especially, I mean, I feel like you can figure out a solution for the NFL and the MLB, just because they weren't as far along as, or NFL is in the fall and MLB was just supposed to be like getting into it now. But NBA and NHL, I mean, I don't know. They had what the playoffs were supposed to be. They were like both going to be in like the second round of their playoffs right now.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it's possible. And even if you look at the NBA, I mean, the amount of days of rest they have in between games and playoffs and stuff, like they would need to completely change the playoff format just because it would be you figure it can't even start until earliest June or July, and the playoffs for NBA go like 2 months. So what are they going to have, like a month-long off season? I don't know. If they could figure out a solution, great. Yeah, no one knows.
Bob, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I was wondering, and I agree with you about having games with no fans in the stands. That's pretty weird, but I'm just afraid that somewhere down the line, somebody might decide, you know what, we're not going to have fans anymore. We're just going to make every game a pay-per-view. So if you want to watch it, you watch it on TV, you sign up for it. You don't come to the stadium. Of course, they're going to lose a lot of revenue from that, but that may be a way that some of the newer teams are going to go.
Yeah,
that's something I never thought of, Bob. I can't imagine though. I mean, most of the revenue for teams though is off of fans. I feel like teams will make far more money selling the beer and the hot dogs to the fans and the tickets than they would on any type of pay-per-view. But I agree with you, Jake. I'll take anything if it's possible. If it's not dangerous, if it's not risky, I'll take it.
Of course, yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the mindset with anything. Like with Legion, it's like I'm dying for a Legion season, especially for, like you said, for the seniors who didn't have. For some of them, this was their last chance to play baseball. And I'm hoping, I mean, it helps that we have another really talented roster coming back. That makes me a little more eager, but just in general, to get the seniors one more season would be great. But if it's, I mean, this whole issue is a lot bigger than a Legion season. It's bigger than anything. So if it's safe, I'd love it. But if not, then it's just not meant to be. So
Not to be a wet blanket, but we got to get through the COVID-19 pandemic. But the way I'm looking out the window at the rain, I don't know how the fields are going to be, what kind of shape they're going to be in, whether you guys can get out there and get practicing if they eventually do say go.
yeah, I mean, that's another, if they do give us the go ahead, we would have to really throw things together in a very short amount of time. Luckily for me, it makes it easier for me because I have so many returners coming back this year. I only have to fill like 5 or 6 roster spots. So I can get a head start on all the paperwork and stuff like that because I know I have all the info. I just have to redo the paperwork on like 2/3 of my team.
Right.
Tryouts would be tough for sure. We're sort of,
Maybe they'll expand roster sizes at this point. Just let everyone play.
yeah. I mean, I think that would be that's something I never even thought about. I might try and pitch that at a league meeting, but that actually is a great idea because I mean I think it should be 20. I'd like having like 2 extra kids, but especially I mean even if they just did it for one year where you took like 25 kids, just to give kids a chance to be even. I mean it's a short season, even if they're not playing that much. I'm sure kids just want to be on a team.
Right.
Because that's the best part. I mean, yeah, competing, stuff like that. Like I loved competing. I loved winning and everything, but
You certainly did.
Yeah.
You were one of the more entertaining players to watch. You had a great intensity.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I think that was like going back to what I said when I don't think a lot of my teammates on Legion, I don't think a lot of them liked me in high school just because they were on the other side and got the wrong idea. But yeah, I mean, like as much as like competing, winning, all that is awesome. It's just being a part of a team, being in a team atmosphere. There's nothing like it. So that would be great if we do get a season, if they were willing to expand rosters, just to get even that many more kids involved, just for one last run would be awesome.
Well, hopefully there will be some type of season. We all have our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
We're all just hoping for it. We're all hoping that this thing will be done soon and we'll be able to get back to somewhat of a normal life. But we just have a minute or two left. I just want to ask you real quick, what was your overall thoughts on the NFL draft? I thought it was a very good production and it went pretty flawlessly.
Yeah. I mean, going into it, I thought it was probably gonna like get hacked or something. I was talking to a couple of my buddies about it, but I mean, I liked the draft. There was a few surprises in there. Didn't think Ruggs was going to get taken as early as he did. There was a few. The Pats, of course, trading out of the first round per usual.
I thought it was a pretty good value pick, though. They got a second and third out of it.
Oh yeah.
Clearly, they're trying to go young.
Yeah, I mean, it was. We have a second round, 4 third rounds, and 4 fourth rounds now. So yes. I mean, the next couple of days should be entertaining, at least for Pats fans. But I don't know. Last night was good. It went better than I mean, like anybody, I didn't really know how they were going to pull it off, but it seemed to go pretty well. I liked how the Bengals fans virtually booed Goodell too.
That was great. Yeah. He actually gave I don't like Roger Goodell for obvious reasons, but he did give a nice speech to start off the draft. I'll give him that.
Yeah, he did. He did well. He did well last night. It was a good night for Goodell, but partly because he couldn't get humiliated as often as he would if it was in person. Right.
Well, yeah. Jake, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap this up. We got our next guest waiting to come on. But thank you so much for joining us, and we'll certainly have to have you back and maybe talk some more NFL draft.
All right, awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
Take care, Jake.
Yeah,
all right,
I'll see you guys.
See you later. All right, we're going to send it over to Matt Clark to give you a quick reminder of what's coming up the rest of the week, and then Jim Cousins will take over, and he's going to talk with Dr. Cavanaugh, the school superintendent. Matt, take it away.
Thanks, Tom. Oh, excuse me. So for anyone who's joining in since the beginning of the show, coming up right after this program, we have an HCAM binge block where we're going to be showing games from the. I said 2018 earlier, but I was wrong. It was the 2019 Girls Lacrosse season from last spring. So that'll be interesting. Coming up tonight at 7 p.m., we have Cheryl Peralt hosting a Friday night wake up call, which is always entertaining. She always does great stuff. And on Sunday at 10:30, we have a live multi-church church service that's airing as well. So lots of good stuff.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the update.
No problem.
Tom is the host of our meeting. Tom is our second guest here. Oh, Carol's here. I see her.
There she is.
Hello, Dr. Cavanaugh. Uh-oh. Can you hear us? Oh, she's connecting to audio now. Hello, Dr. Cavanaugh. You're muted.
There we go.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be seen on HCAM.
All right. All right. Are you getting used to Zoom?
Oh, I'm getting very used to Zoom. I don't want to make you feel unspecial, but you're my fourth Zoom of the day. So
No kidding. Well, I really appreciate you fitting us into your schedule.
no, I love it. So thank you.
All right. Well, I got a few things to ask you about, but first I just want to know, how are you doing? How is everything going with you?
Personally, things are going well. I mean, I guess as well as things can be when you're kind of confined to a space all the time.
Yeah.
You try to get out and do a few things like walk or rake or whatever, but you're inside a lot.
I know. And isn't it amazing how much you can be inside and still not get a lot done?
Oh my goodness. I'm in the office today and Jen Parson, the assistant superintendent, was here as well for a couple hours. And we were saying that no matter how much you sit here, how long you sit here, at the end of the day, there's still more to do. So, yeah.
Yep. I was in the studio earlier this week. I have to do my paperwork and get things and stuff like that done. And it was really, really nice. It was nice to just be in my natural space and just kind of plow through a lot of stuff.
Yes, I actually said to my family, I'm going into the office today because I need a change of scenery.
Yep. I know exactly what you mean.
Mm.
So when you are hanging out there, what are you guys doing for fun?
At home?
Yep.
Well, we really do try to walk every day. And I was also saying to Jen Parson earlier today, because there are so few night meetings now, normally I would be out 2, 3, 4 nights a week. We all have dinner together, which is kind of refreshing again. Right now, I only have one child at home, and she will soon be leaving us. But she's been there for a few weeks, so it's really been nice to have her at home with us.
That's really nice. Where's she going in a few weeks, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, no. So it's a very interesting story. She and her husband have a preemie baby who is at UMass Memorial. And so the baby is still in the hospital. And so once the baby is released from the hospital, they'll be moving back to their home in Quincy.
Oh, I see. I see. We actually have all 5 of us under one roof again, which it's been a little while for that. And it, as you were saying, it's nice. It's really nice. We connect again, we talk and stuff. But it's amazing. There's a wide range of what is an acceptable time for dinner. It ranges from 5:30 to 6 o'clock to 6:30 to 7 o'clock, and everybody has their own special favorite time.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, because right now there seems to be no sense of urgency around time. So some nights I'll start making dinner at 5:30. Some nights I make it at 7. It doesn't really matter.
Right, exactly. It's interesting for us. We actually are trying to get it early because my wife decided that she would read the Chronicles of Narnia. So she's been reading that out loud, like a couple of chapters every night. We do it right after dinner, and it's just a really kind of nice, just spending time together. We've also done, we've only done one puzzle, but it was really fun. So I think we might want to do some more puzzles. And I got a couple kids who are big board game people, so we've been doing a lot of that.
Yeah, we're big board game people too.
Yeah.
The other thing we do fairly religiously is we watch Jeopardy from 7:30 to 8 o'clock.
Oh, really?
Love it. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you get the answers?
Well, that's sort of the whole competition, right? So
Yeah.
there's my husband, my daughter, and her husband, and you just shout out the answer.
Yeah.
The only place where you have to have a little bit of etiquette is on Final Jeopardy.
Oh, real? Okay.
Yeah.
I always wonder how it must be different when you're on the show, because some of the questions I would have no idea and I would never have a chance. But other questions, I'm like, oh, I get that. And then these people seem to hesitate or wait. And I just have to think that the pressure of being in front of the cameras must really kind of inhibit your thinking process.
Yes. And I think the things that you know really deeply, your retrieval time is so much faster.
Mm.
You know, that's what I find when there are 4 adults in the room. When we're
Yeah.
in our own wheelhouse, it's very quick.
Yeah.
But there are other things that you know, it would just take you a little bit to get through your mental Rolodex, you know, to come up with the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few months ago, somebody had written a really interesting article about the strategy of winning at Jeopardy. It's
Mhm.
not just about knowing a lot of facts and knowledge. It's about knowing certain areas. It's about knowing where the daily doubles typically come up. And
Mhm.
it's about picking your category strategically. It was really, really interesting.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think even your reflexes on the buzzer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
I remember seeing that now that you say it. Yeah.
Right. All right. So that's good. I'm happy to hear that you're safe and well.
Mm.
How's everything at good old HPS?
I would say at HPS, things are busier than they would be if school were in session, not
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
You know what I would say? I would say congratulations. Number 3 in the state, and the first 2 schools aren't even public schools. That was amazing, Carol.
Yeah, that is really nice for us. Yeah, so the first one is an exam school, and the second is a charter, and then there's Hopkinton High School. So that's really made us all feel very proud.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the things that we like to say is we don't want to live and die by the metrics, but when you see something like that, it really does make you feel kind of validated with all of the work that I know our teachers do every day. So
Yes.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah.
I just, it was so cool seeing the signs that went up for the seniors.
Oh my goodness. I know that Mr. Bishop and his team are getting such good press on that, and they really deserve it. It's so, I mean, I feel so deeply for the kids in the class of 2020. You know, you work for all of those years going through elementary school, middle school, high school, and somehow those last several months of high school are supposed to be, you know, your great reward. You know, all the joys of your schooling kind of culminate.
Yeah.
And it's really sad. So for as many great things as we can do to honor them, you know, we will try. And I know Mr. Bishop is working on that, but the signs were a nice touch, weren't they?
They certainly were. They were really nice looking too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a question for you,
Oh.
Carol. I wondered, now that the governor has decided that schools will stay closed,
Mm.
have you had, now you've had the opportunity to not wonder whether it's going to happen or isn't going to happen. How have you changed your planning for the rest of the year and the start of next year?
So I will say we all sort of knew that the governor was going to at some point tell us the doors were not going to reopen. And as much as you knew it, when you heard him finally utter the words, it was kind of like that punch in the gut. You know, I mean, it was like a reality then. But right now, the commissioner usually does a conference call with all of the superintendents on Friday mornings, and he didn't do one this morning because he said, "I'm working on establishing power standards." And when we moved from, you know, initially when we thought we'd be out a couple of weeks, what we were doing is we were pushing out work for kids that was, you know, sort of a revisiting of things we had already taught. So the kids could just practice some of the skills they had learned, revisit some of the content, and it would be all right. But when we realized we were going to be out for longer, Hopkinton as a district, we had said to all of the teachers at every grade level, You need to determine those power standards without which you would not want a kid to advance to the next grade. You wouldn't want a second grader to go to third, a sixth grader to go to seventh. So we are really ahead of the curve, I think, on that. And our teachers have been doing that since April 6th. So at this point, we really are planning to do our remote instruction using the curriculum guides that we have, sort of developed in this very short period of time, from now till June 17th.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. If you can think back a year, a few years ago, and there was all this buzz about, online teaching, and colleges were doing remote learning, and they were offering particular classes online. And I don't know if you would, but I would kind of wonder, like, wow, is that the way that the world is going to go? Is technology online going to be a major component of teaching?
Mhm.
And I would say that from this vantage point now, having been thrust into it, I can see very little to recommend going this route unless a college, for example, like Harvard, has like this crazy popular course, and they're offering it to people who would have no other chance to possibly take that course. If you're reaching somewhere that's beyond your normal sphere. But other than that, boy, what a difference it is trying to, you know create a relationship and work with students through the computer rather than in a room.
Yes. And I think that's the big piece, is the working one-on-one with students. So I was talking to one of the teachers the other day, and she said, and we're not usually these people who get on a computer or even stand in front of kids in a classroom and, lecture or do that direct instruction for long periods of time. And it's true that you break it up. You might have 10 minutes of direct instruction, then kids mess around with something. You interact with kids individually, they interact with each other. And it's all that interaction that you're not really getting in these online forums. That's the huge missing piece. But I think that's the richness of learning. So that's where I'm really, I mean, I'm happy that we're able to push out instruction, but it will never ever compensate for what we can do face to face in a brick and mortar classroom.
Yeah.
You're right. There's more to education than just the book learning, to say. And when they miss out on the social part of going to school and being in the community, I think that's a big loss for everybody involved. You can get the information online, but you can't get the experience online.
Yeah, there are, so many of those kind of social emotional resources available to people now. And what they're all telling us is that kids are grieving that loss. They miss their friends, they miss their teachers, they miss their classrooms. And I understand that. I mean, I think as an adult, I'm feeling that way.
Right. One of my wife's patients was talking about how they missed, um, like, just learning tangentially while somebody else in the classroom was asking questions of the teacher.
Mhm.
They may be getting knowledge that way. And one thing that I always try to remember is that everyone is different and unique, and everyone's feelings are legitimate. I think that some people who have high stress jobs may have a much higher tolerance for disruption and for difficulties than a person who, by comparison, you may think, oh, they don't have as stressful a job. However, I just think that people are suited to the tasks that they do, and whichever level that you're at, those frustrations and those difficulties are just as valid across the board.
Mm. Yeah, I think too that kids find comfort in normalcy and in routines. I think one of the things that we say all the time is that first month of school, we're teaching kids routines. We teach them how to get off the bus and how to find their classroom and how to go to lunch and how to line up and how to get their pencils and how to go to the locker. And all of those things are just part of these sort of really very regulated but comforting routines. And so I think without those, one of the things that we notice is if we have kids who have gone on school vacation, for example, when they come back or right before they leave for, say, February vacation or April vacation, kids become a little dysregulated then because they know there's going to be upset in what is normalcy for them. in their comfort zone. And so, I think this is really sending kids into a place where they're struggling in some ways to find routines and normalcy, because
Yeah,
nothing is
and
normal.
I'll be quite honest and transparent here. Back in my younger days, when I was not as wise, I had said, you know what, I'm not going to go to Disney World in the summer. It's just crazy. It's too packed. So we're taking our kids out of school for a week, and we did that, and they never caught up for the rest of the year. And that was such a lesson for us that oh yeah, there's actually a real reason why you don't miss a week of school.
No, it is really funny how much teachers are able to do with 3,917 kids in a week's time. It's miraculous. Yeah, and I think even our teachers, I don't know that they recognize how much they're able to do, because it just feels like, it's just wind erosion. And I say that all the time, but one day you wake up and look, this is how far we've come.
Hmm.
Mm.
That's really interesting. I hadn't heard the wind erosion concept of that.
Mm.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think, in that whole notion about wind erosion, it's happening all the time. And you kind of know in the back of your mind it's happening, but you don't see it while it's happening. And I think learning is just so kind of incremental and organic that one day you recognize how far kids have grown. I think for me, one of the most profound instances of that is when you look at, say, a first grader's journal in September, and then you look at the journal in June, and you realize that they're writing complete sentences and they have capital letters and punctuation marks, but their thought processes are such that they have, ideas that they've grown with a beginning and a middle and an end. And in the beginning, they were just trying to piece together words phonetically. It's just amazing, the growth in something like that that's illustrated,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of growth, I expect that we still will have some growth in the fall when they come back. And I wonder, has all the facility programs and capital expenditures been put on hold until after the town meeting?
Oh my goodness, Bob. So that is a huge worry. When I say we're working around the clock, that's one of the things that is a worry, because we really don't know if we're going to, have an established budget come July 1st, because we don't know what state aid will look like. And if we don't know what state aid looks like, I don't necessarily know that the town will be able to establish a budget and therefore the school establish a budget. One of the things that has been talked about is just doing 1/12 budgets, so you just take it piece by piece by piece as you go. And that really might be where we are. But the fear on the school side is we were looking for a number of positions. So, for example, going from 12 fourth grades and 12 fifth grade classrooms to 14 of each. And, you really have to hire a teacher for the entire school year.
Hmm.
So, that's where we are. We're thinking very hard about what are we going to be able to do in terms of putting teachers in front of students.
Now you just had some major capital projects get approved at last town meeting.
Hmm.
Is everything okay with those? Everything moving forward?
So far, so good. We have weekly updates with the company that is building our modular classrooms. They're in Pennsylvania. They seem to believe that they will be on time. And when we meet with them, we talk about some of the things that need to be changed because of codes. So, external stairways, covers over the stairways. What will the doors look like? And, will we need different windows? PA systems that are external. But for the most part, those plans are chugging along. So we're still hoping to have those classrooms open in September.
And had you gotten everything in place that needed to be, or are there other capital projects that you were still working on and are still preparing for?
So there were capital projects that we had on the warrant for the June town meeting.
Okay.
Well, what used to be the May town meeting, which is now the June town meeting. But we'll just see how those things go.
Right. Um, how are things going with your connectedness with your administration and with the leadership of the various schools now that we're in this particular situation? How do you stay connected with them?
Oh, it's just really all electronic connection.
Mm-hmm.
Every Monday, we've been doing just the five principals, Jen Parson and I in a meeting. And then every other Tuesday, we still do our um, what we call admin council meetings. So everybody, from the director of building and grounds, director of finance, all the assistant principals, we all kind of get in a room and have virtually get in a room and have those conversations. So we're probably, the principals and I are probably communicating anywhere between 2 and 3 hours a week. But and that's formal communication. That doesn't count the I'm going to pick up my phone and call you right now. I have to text you, you know. So a lot of that happens all day long as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Do you find that things take more time doing it this way versus having a meeting where everybody gathers, or do you find it very similar?
You know what I think the problem is with meeting this way? The electronic meetings, it sounds crazy, but they're exhausting. If we were going to meet in school buildings, you'd get your car, you'd drive to the building, you'd walk around, people would sort of jibber jabber face to face. But there's something about this format that detracts from those real casual conversations. Because I think if you had 14 people in a room physically, if I was standing close to someone, I might ask, you know, how's your daughter doing? How's this going? Those kinds of things. But when you just see a Brady Bunch alignment of people, there's less of that tendency to single out a single person and ask a question of them.
I hadn't really thought of it that way because my staff and I do meetings this way too. And you're absolutely right. I wonder, do you have the secret to that? Do you know why that is?
I
It's just like,
don't.
oh my gosh, it takes forever.
You know what else, Jim? I'll say this out loud. If you have that Brady Bunch, you know, kind of panel of all the faces, and when you have to be very careful because people are always reading your face and your body language too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see people are like laying back in the chair or rolling their eyes or making signals to someone else in the room like sure, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's a lot of interesting things I think that happen in this format.
If you haven't yet, you should Google. There are hilarious Zoom meeting videos now that are the fun. My favorite one was the guy took a picture of the screen and he's like, so my boss turned herself into a potato with one of these plugins and she couldn't turn herself back. So she had to run the whole meeting as a potato. I love that.
Yeah.
One of the things I'd like to say, I think that what sometimes when you have the virtual meetings, everybody wants to get in what their point is right now and get what's said. And then, okay, the meeting's over, let's go. But when you meet more socially or in a group, you have an opportunity to get a lot of insight, especially if you're trying to make plans down the road that you may not hear about this until the third virtual meeting. And it would have been nice to know that this happened, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, and then you could have taken action for it. So a lot of that is lost when you have to just work through the computer.
Right. So Kat, I'm wondering, so obviously you're correct. There was a lot of great press about the senior signs.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that the middle school teachers made a great music video. And then after that, some middle school students had a response to that where they made a great video too.
Mm-hmm.
I've also seen a video from Elmwood where the staff there made a nice video for their kids. Have you come across anything else that you would like to just highlight or comment on that you've seen staff or admin or students doing during this time?
The marathon teachers also had a video that they put out. I don't know if you've seen theirs.
I haven't seen that one yet. No.
Oh, yeah, it's another one of the social distancing ones.
Okay.
It's very cute. They also had a bluebird that was attached to that video, so you might want to check that one out. That was pretty good too. I think Mrs. Bolello over at Hopkins is always doing those kinds of things. When we had, I think 2 weeks ago, it might have been National Assistant Principals Week, so they created one for Miss Babson, which was really very nice too.
Yep.
Yeah, so people have just been putting together some fun things to keep people going. And then of course people can't help themselves but to send all kinds of YouTube videos and things to read. And so yeah, they've been clever.
Oh, I know. You know, that's one of the things I always say. The collected wit and wisdom of the internet is just amazing.
Yeah.
And so when people can kind of mine that and send out some interesting things, it's really cool. I
Yeah,
was
well,
just looking.
shout
I
out.
was talking with Doug Scott last night. He was showing me a new tool that he's using, and he has his students making Rube Goldberg machines. And there was this one kid where he put a little ball in, and it went through all these manipulations and ended up pouring cereal into his bowl so he could have his cereal bowl. So there's some clever things going on.
Yeah. Just a little shout out to Mrs. Carver. Every day since the very first day of the shutdown, she has been putting out something to her staff. And sometimes it's, about emotional health and self-care, but every day she will put one of those little cartoons in there that will say something funny about whether it's homeschooling and some of hers are very good.
Yeah.
I don't know where she's getting them all, but she does it without fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of very good, just an observation is I've been really enjoying the letters that you have been sending out into the community. I think they have a really good tone of openness and clarity that is very nice to see.
Well, thank you. And I think we've been, as an administrative team, we've been trying to not to overwhelm parents because we get fearful that, as I send out something, then maybe the director of special education sends out something, the building principal does, the teacher does, so parents can get 7 or 8 emails a day, and we're trying not to inundate them, but to just kind of keep things clear and concise. So that's very nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. You should consider maybe doing some Zoom highlights from the Hill. Since this is what we've got now.
Oh my gosh, that would be kind of funny. Yeah.
It might be nice to do some interviews to see what teachers are doing. We had the Evan and Alan on a couple weeks ago, the same week that we had you on first time, kind of just talking about what the plans were, what the processes, and that was at the beginning when everything was just being figured out.
Right.
And now that it's just been made definite for the rest of the year, I think it might be interesting to kind of circle back to that and see how it's fallen into place and get some examples. I just gave the Doug Scott one. Get some examples of what teachers are doing and what some of the kids are able to, produce at home and learn at home.
Yeah, that would be very interesting to pop into some of those classrooms. Yeah.
Well, we only got about another minute. Any news from the school committee? Is everybody doing okay there and plugging along?
Everyone seems to be doing well. Yes, I think so. The two people whose terms would be ending are obviously in it for a longer haul than they anticipated. So,
yeah,
but yeah, we're all holding it up and still working hard.
Yeah, I just saw that just the other day that people in positions of terms or endings are extended, but I don't know the details of that. Did you know? Is it a certain amount of time, or is it just whenever elections happen again?
Yeah, I think it's until elections happen again.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So
All
yeah,
right.
Mina had said, I didn't bargain to be the chair for this long. I'm not telling tales out of school. She actually said that publicly in a meeting. So,
all right. So just as we wrap up, I have one question for you. What is your favorite comfort food when you're isolating at home?
oh, it's definitely popcorn.
Really?
I eat more popcorn than I care to share. Yeah.
Oh, I love popcorn too. All right, so now we got to go. What's your favorite kind of popcorn?
Well, usually I like the homemade popcorn. You know what I mean? Just you pop it yourself and put on your own butter or whatever. But I've been trying to be very good, so I now get Skinny Pop.
Oh, that's actually not bad. Not
no,
bad.
It's not.
Yeah, it's always best homemade. I do like
Smart Food.
Yeah, Smart Food.
Oh,
And
great.
also I just bought some Wise. I was just eating some Wise about a half an hour ago, and that's pretty good. But all right, so yeah, I like that. You're a popcorn person, so am I.
Terrible.
All right, Bob, you have something you need to say?
No, I just wanted to say I like the old school way. Popcorn, pop myself in the pan. I don't. But I had a funny story. I don't have time for it. But my granddaughter went to a football game at Navy, and the lady behind her, she was 2 years old, and the lady behind her had French fries. And my granddaughter loves popcorn, and she had popcorn. She asked the lady if she could have a French fry. The lady let her. So the lady said, "Can I have a piece of popcorn?" No.
All right, we are out of time. Carol, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward
Thank you.
to seeing you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye. Thanks
Bye.
for watching. We'll see you next time on the Hangout Hour.